Some people spend their whole lives being seen and never matter. You spent yours being invisible and changed the outcome of wars that were never officially fought. 20 aircraft exist on Earth that can carry nuclear weapons through fully defended airspace without triggering a single radar return. You flew one. The people who raised you, the neighbors who watched you grow up, the strangers on your last commercial flight home, none of them know. That is not a burden. That is the job. And you chose it 3 times before they finally said yes. Before the uniform, the kid. Nobody clocked age 9 to 17. You grow up in a Midwest house where the TV is always on and nobody is watching. Your father works rotating shifts at a plant that smells like hot metal. Your mother works more. You learn early that the adults around you are tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. You don't resent it, you study it. You are a watcher, not a talker. At school you exist in the middle register. Present, unremarkable, unmemorable. At 15 you see a documentary about the B-2 spirit. Black, blended, enormous, completely silent from the ground. A shape that seems to belong to different physics than everything around it. You don't tell anyone. You file it away. You already understand that the things worth wanting are not the things you announce. By 17 the town feels like a ceiling lowering slowly. You are not running from something. You are moving toward the only future that makes sense to you. You walk into a recruiter's office on a Tuesday and you don't walk out the same person. Level 1. The cadet. You're 18. They reject you twice. You fix what they flag. You reapply. The psychological evaluation. A man in a gray office asks what you do when a lawful order conflicts with a personal moral line. You answer without hesitating. He writes something down. Undergraduate pilot training. Laughlin Air Force Base, Del Rio, Texas. 4:30 wake up. Ground school at 0600. Aerodynamics, meteorology. Emergency procedures. You memorize checklists the way people memorize prayers, because out there, they serve the same purpose. Your first flight is in a T-6 Texan II. The instructor doesn't encourage you. He watches your hands, watches your scan, watches what you do when the horizon tilts past 40 degrees. You correct, barely. He marks something down. 24 cadets start, 6 are gone by month 4, no ceremony. One morning, a name is simply off the board. You stop forming attachments too fast, but something unexpected happens. For the first time in your life, the stillness you were born with, the patience, the watching before acting, is not a liability. It is exactly what this system was built to reward. You belong here. That is the most dangerous and most necessary realization of your life. Level 2. The student pilot, you're 21. The T-38 Talon negotiates nothing. Supersonic twin engine, and every input is a conversation with physics that physics always wins. Night formation flying, you hold position 30 feet off the lead aircraft's wingtip at 400 knots in total darkness, navigating by a single row of dim blue lights. 1 degree of drift and you are a debris field. You do not drift. Your instructor is Major Calloway, former F-15 pilot. He never raises his voice. His most used word is, again, every time your scan breaks. Every time your eyes stop moving for half a second too long. Again, no frustration. Just expectation. You learn that the pilots who stare at one thing die looking at it. You scan. Always scan. Assignment night. Names called. Aircraft assigned. F-16, C-17, KC-135. Then your name. 2 words, B-2 Spirit. The room goes quiet in a specific way, not impressed quiet. Processing quiet. 20 aircraft exist. The program is classified. The training is classified. Your future is classified. You call your parents. You tell them you got a good assignment. Nothing else. Your mother says she's proud. You hold that. Then you let it go. You'll need both hands for what's coming. Level 3. The aircraft commander. Your 27 left seat. B-2 qualification. 14 months. Fly-by-wire computers, 4 of them running simultaneously, anyone capable of flying the aircraft alone. A 32-hour simulated strike profile. Take off from Whiteman Air Force Base. Aerial refuel over the Pacific. Penetrate a simulated air defense network. Deliver, return. No deviations. Your evaluator signs your form. Says only, welcome to the 39 3rd. The same bomb squadron that flew the Enola Gay in 1945. You understand the weight of that number the moment you hear it. First real-world deployment. Diego Garcia, Indian Ocean. One night a real-world alert comes through. You and co-pilot Captain Reyes receive coordinates, a target package, a launch window. You sit in the aircraft, armed, engines warm, for 4 hours while decision-makers on the other side of the planet decide what the world is going to be tonight. Then the mission stands down. The order never comes. You taxi back, shut down, sign the log. The ink looks exactly the same as it always does. What you never speak about, not to Reyes, not to anyone, is the 60 seconds after the stand down. Sitting in the dark cockpit, engines winding down. You search yourself for what you feel. Relief is part of it. But relief has a texture, and this has a different one. It is the recognition that you were completely ready, and that readiness required you to have already crossed a line inside yourself that you cannot uncross. The mission didn't happen. The internal event did. You file it. You go to dinner. You sleep. You brief the next sortie at 0800. That is what professionalism looks like from the inside, exactly like everything else. Level 4, the instructor and commander. You're 3140, you teach now. Lieutenant Nakamura is technically flawless, but in the simulator, when the scenario breaks from the brief, he freezes 2 seconds before reacting. 2 seconds is a long time at altitude. You run him through it until hesitation becomes response and response becomes instinct. He qualifies. You nod. You move to the next student. That is what Callaway would have done. At 40, you command the 3093rd, 300 personnel, aircraft on continuous alert. Any hour of any day, a B-2 from your squadron can be armed, crewed, and airborne within minutes of a verified presidential order. That is not a training scenario. That is the standing condition of your life. You have a person you come home to on the nights you come home. They have learned not to ask about the week. You try harder than they know. You fall short more than you admit. There is no checklist for this part. No instructor watching your scan. Level 5. The last flight. You're 56. You don't announce it as your last flight. You brief it like any other. Fly it like any other. Somewhere over Nebraska at 50,000 feet, you engage the autopilot and hold altitude for 60 seconds. The curvature of the Earth is visible at the edges of the cockpit glass. Same view it has always been. You are the only thing that has changed. You think about Diego Garcia, the 4 hours, the order that never came. You think about Nakamura. He commands a squadron now. Reyes made wing commander last year. You think about Callaway and whether he had a moment like this one, looking at the same horizon, feeling the same thing, which is not nostalgia. It is recognition, the understanding that what you gave your life to was real and that the accounting will always be private, and that you have always known it would be. You grease the landing out of habit, out of pride. You taxi in, shut down, complete the post-flight checklist for the last time, sign the maintenance log, hand your helmet bag to the crew chief, walk across the ramp in Missouri afternoon light and do not look back. Not because it doesn't matter, because you already know what's there. Retirement is strange in a quiet way. Mornings without a brief, coffee made slowly, long drives to nowhere specific. The stillness you were born with, the one the Air Force sharpened into a weapon, now has nowhere to report. You sit with that. You let it find its own shape. Reyes sends 2 words when your retirement is announced, made it. You sit with them. Then you write back the same, because that is everything that needs to be said between people who flew where you flew and carried what you carried, through skies that never knew your name. And somewhere above Nebraska right now, at 50,000 feet, someone trained by someone you trained is doing it again. Invisible. Deliberate. Completely alone in the most classified cockpit on Earth. The sky still doesn't know their name. That was always the point. That will always be the point. If this made you think, subscribe. New story every day.